My name is Simon Crawford, and I used to believe in happy endings. 43 years old, fixing computers for a living, married to Lauren for 15 years. We had what everyone called the perfect marriage. She climbed the corporate ladder at TechFlow Solutions while I kept our modest house running and paid the bills with my IT repair business. Lauren always said she was building our future. "Just give me 2 more years, Simon," she'd promise over morning coffee. "Once I make senior project manager, we can finally take that vacation to Europe." That was 3 years ago. The promotion came, but Europe never did. Instead, the late nights started. "Sorry, honey, big presentation tomorrow. I'll be home around midnight." The texts became routine. I'd eat dinner alone, watching Netflix until I fell asleep on the couch. When I'd wake up at 3 a.m., she'd already be in bed, her back turned to me. I told myself it was temporary. Lauren was ambitious, driven. That's what I loved about her when we met at a coffee shop near the university. She was studying business management while I was finishing my computer science degree. She had this fire in her eyes, talking about changing the world through technology. I was the steady guy who'd support her dreams, but dreams have a way of becoming nightmares when you're not paying attention. The first red flag was the new clothes. Lauren started buying expensive outfits, claiming they were necessary for client meetings. Designer blouses that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Image matters in my industry," she'd say, modeling a $300 dress in our bedroom mirror. "Investors judge you before you even speak." Then came the unexplained expenses. Dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Uber rides to parts of the city I'd never heard her mention. When I asked about them, she'd get defensive. "Do you really want to micromanage every business lunch I have? I'm trying to advance my career here." I stopped asking. That was my first mistake. The second red flag was her phone behavior. Lauren used to leave her phone everywhere, on the kitchen counter, in the bathroom, charging on her nightstand. Suddenly, it never left her side. She'd take it to the shower, sleep with it under her pillow, and jump whenever it buzzed during dinner. "Work emergency," she'd mutter, typing furiously while our food got cold. I wanted to trust her. Marriage is supposed to be built on trust, right? But trust is a two-way street, and I was starting to feel like I was walking down it alone. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in October. I'd spent the day fixing a server crash at a local dental office, came home exhausted and covered in dust from crawling under desks. Lauren was in the kitchen, dressed in a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. "Wow, you look incredible," I said, meaning it. She still took my breath away when she made an effort. "Special occasion?" "Client dinner," she replied without looking up from her phone. "The Peterson account. Could be worth millions to the company." I knew the Peterson account. She'd been working on it for months. "That's great, honey. What time will you be home?" "Late. Don't wait up." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Lauren," I called after her. She paused, hand on the doorknob. "I love you." She hesitated for just a moment too long. "Love you too." The door closed, and I was alone again. I heated up leftover pizza and tried to focus on a documentary about cybersecurity, but my mind kept wandering. Something felt off. Lauren had been distant for weeks, distracted even when she was physically present. Our conversations had become purely functional: bills, schedules, household maintenance. When was the last time we'd really talked? When was the last time we'd made love? I couldn't remember, and that scared me more than I wanted to admit. Around 10 p.m., curiosity got the better of me. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared phone plan account. Lauren and I had always been transparent about finances and accounts. We'd set up location sharing years ago for safety reasons. If one of us broke down on the highway or had an emergency, the other could find them. I clicked on Lauren's phone location. According to the GPS, she was at Chez Laurent, an upscale French restaurant downtown. I'd never heard of the Peterson Group holding business dinners there. In fact, I'd never heard of them dining anywhere fancier than Applebee's. My stomach twisted, but I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were trying to impress the Petersons. Maybe this was how big deals got made in Lauren's world. But then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. 6 months ago, Lauren had mentioned running into her ex-boyfriend Eric at a company networking event. "Small world," she'd said casually. "He just got hired as a senior developer at TechFlow." Eric Brennan. I remembered him from our early dating days. Lauren and Eric had dated for 2 years before she met me. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, confident, from a wealthy family. He drove a BMW and wore expensive suits, even as a college student. Lauren had claimed their breakup was mutual, that they wanted different things in life. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Now he was working at her company, and she was having client dinners at romantic French restaurants. I closed the laptop and tried to push the thoughts away. I was being paranoid, jealous for no reason. Lauren had chosen me, not Eric. We'd built a life together, a marriage. She wouldn't throw that away for some corporate pretty boy. But sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay in bed until 2 a.m., listening for the sound of her car in the driveway. When she finally came home, she slipped into bed quietly, smelling like expensive wine and cologne that wasn't mine. "How was dinner?" I whispered. "Fine. Go back to sleep." She rolled away from me, and I stared at the ceiling until dawn, wondering when my wife had become a stranger. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine and growing suspicion. Lauren's late nights became more frequent, her explanations more vague. Team building exercise. Strategy session. Investor presentations. Always something that couldn't wait. Always something more important than coming home to her husband. I started paying closer attention to the details. The way she'd shower immediately when she came home, even though she'd showered that morning. The way she'd started wearing perfume to work, something she'd never done in our 15 years together. The way she'd smile at her phone during breakfast, then quickly put it away when she noticed me watching. My friend Tommy Martinez, who ran a boxing gym downtown, noticed my distraction during our weekly training sessions. Tommy was an ex-cop turned trainer, the kind of guy who could read people like open books. "You're throwing punches like you're angry at the bag," he said one Tuesday evening, holding the heavy bag steady while I worked out my frustrations. "What's eating at you, Simon?" I paused, unwrapping my hands. Tommy had been my best friend since college. If I couldn't trust him, who could I trust? "I think Lauren's having an affair," I said, the words feeling strange and bitter in my mouth. Tommy raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation, brother. What makes you think that?" I told him everything. The late nights, the expensive clothes, the phone behavior, the mysterious dinners. Tommy listened without judgment, nodding occasionally. "Could be innocent," he said finally. "Corporate world's different from what we know. But your gut's usually pretty good about people. What's it telling you?" "That my marriage is falling apart, and I'm the last one to know about it." Tommy handed me a towel. "So what are you going to do? Confront her?" "I need proof first. Real proof, not just suspicions." "Be careful, Simon. Sometimes when you go looking for the truth, you find more than you bargained for." He was right, but I was past the point of no return. I had to know. The opportunity came the following Friday. Lauren announced she'd be working late again, another important client dinner that could make or break her promotion. She left the house at 6 p.m., dressed to kill in a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. This time, I didn't just check her location. I drove to TechFlow's office building downtown. The parking garage was nearly empty. Lauren's Honda Civic was nowhere to be seen. I called the main office number and asked for Lauren Crawford. "I'm sorry, but Ms. Crawford left early today," the night security guard informed me. "Building's been pretty quiet since 4 p.m. My hands shook as I hung up the phone. She'd lied. Directly, boldly lied to my face. I checked her location again. Chez Laurent, the same restaurant as before. This time, I decided to see for myself. The drive downtown felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. Part of me hoped I'd find Lauren at a legitimate business dinner, that there'd be some reasonable explanation for the lies. The other part of me, the part that had been growing stronger every day, knew exactly what I was going to find. Chez Laurent was the kind of place that required reservations and charged $30 for an appetizer. Through the large front windows, I could see couples at intimate tables, soft lighting, fresh flowers. It wasn't the kind of place you took clients unless you were trying to seduce them. I parked across the street and walked toward the restaurant, my heart pounding. The maitre d' greeted me with a polite smile. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" "Actually, I'm supposed to meet my wife here, Lauren Crawford. She's having dinner with some business associates." The maitre d' consulted his list. "Ah, yes, Ms. Crawford. Table for 2 in our back section. Right this way." Table for 2. Not a business dinner, a date. I followed him through the restaurant, past couples sharing wine and whispering across candlelit tables. In the back corner, partially hidden by a decorative screen, I saw them. Lauren was sitting across from Eric Brennan, leaning forward with that laugh I used to think was reserved for me. Eric's hand was covering hers on the table. They were sharing a bottle of champagne, looking at each other like teenagers in love. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All the air left my lungs at once. "Sir?" The maitre d' was looking at me with concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," I managed to say. "Actually, I think I need to make a phone call first." I stumbled back toward the entrance, my legs feeling like rubber. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and tried to process what I'd just seen. 15 years of marriage, and this was how it ended. Not with a fight or growing apart, but with lies and secret dinners and my wife holding hands with her ex-boyfriend. I should have confronted them right there, should have marched over to their table and demanded an explanation. But something stopped me. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the beginning of a plan that was already forming in the back of my mind. Instead, I drove home and waited. Lauren came back at midnight, lipstick slightly smudged, hair not quite as perfect as when she'd left. She slipped into bed beside me, probably thinking I was asleep. "How was the client dinner?" I asked quietly. She stiffened. "Fine, productive. The Petersons are very interested in moving forward." Another lie, smooth and practiced, like she'd been rehearsing it. "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." She relaxed slightly. "Thanks. I'm exhausted. Big day tomorrow." I lay there in the darkness, listening to her breathing even out as she fell asleep. My wife, my partner, the woman I'd loved for 15 years, was cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend, and she was so comfortable with lying that she could sleep peacefully beside me afterward. That's when I decided that Lauren wanted to play games, I'd play games too, but I was going to play to win. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own marriage. I started documenting everything: times, places, inconsistencies in Lauren's stories. I set up a small notebook where I recorded every lie, every suspicious behavior, every moment that confirmed what I already knew. Lauren was having an affair with Eric Brennan, and they weren't being particularly careful about it. I learned that Eric lived in a downtown loft apartment, drove a leased BMW, and had a girlfriend named Jenna Walsh, who worked as a graphic designer for a marketing firm. I found this information through social media, where Eric posted pictures of his expensive lifestyle and Jenna shared photos of their supposedly happy relationship. Jenna seemed nice in her posts. She shared pictures of hiking trips, homemade dinners, and cute couple selfies with Eric. She had no idea that her boyfriend was sneaking around with a married woman during business dinners and late-night strategy sessions. The more I learned about the situation, the angrier I became. It wasn't just that Lauren was cheating, it was the elaborate deception, the way she looked me in the eye every morning and pretended everything was normal. It was the way she'd started criticizing little things about me, comparing our modest lifestyle to the luxury she was experiencing with Eric. "Sarah from accounting just bought a house in Westfield," she mentioned one evening. 3 bedrooms, granite countertops, a 2-car garage. Must be nice to have that kind of financial security. The implication was clear. I wasn't providing enough. I wasn't successful enough. I wasn't Eric. "Maybe if you hadn't spent $300 on a dress last week, we could start saving for granite countertops," I replied. She gave me a look that could freeze water. "That dress was a business investment. You wouldn't understand." I understood more than she realized. The breaking point came when I found the burner phone. Lauren had always been organized about her belongings, but lately she'd been more secretive about her purse, her gym bag, her car. One Saturday morning, she went for a run and left her gym bag on the kitchen counter. She'd been in the shower for less than 5 minutes when curiosity got the better of me. Hidden in a zippered compartment underneath her workout clothes was a phone I'd never seen before. A cheap Android device that looked like something you'd buy at a gas station. My hands trembled as I turned it on. No lock screen, no security. Just a basic phone with one contact. E. The text messages made me sick to my stomach. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear the red dress. Last night was incredible. When can we tell people about us? Simon's working late Thursday. Come over at 8. I think I'm falling in love with you again." There were dozens of messages, going back months. They'd been planning their meetings, coordinating their lies, building a relationship behind my back while I was fixing computers and paying bills and believing in our marriage. The most recent message was from the night before. "Jenna's visiting her sister this weekend. We can have the whole place to ourselves." I took photos of every message with my own phone, then carefully put the burner back exactly where I'd found it. Lauren finished her shower and came downstairs, humming cheerfully. "Good run?" I asked, my voice remarkably steady. "Great. I'm thinking about training for a 5K. Maybe you should join me. We could both use more exercise." Even her attempts at conversation felt like insults now. Everything she said seemed designed to point out my shortcomings, to justify her affair in her own mind. That afternoon, while Lauren was out shopping with her sister, I called Tommy. "I need to ask you a favor," I said, "and it's going to sound crazy. Lay it on me. I need you to help me catch my wife in the act, and I think I know how to do it." Tommy was quiet for a long moment. "You sure about this, Simon? Once you cross this line, there's no going back." "She crossed the line months ago. I'm just evening the score." All right. What do you need? I explained my plan. It was simple, elegant, and completely legal. I was going to use Lauren's own deception against her, with a twist she'd never see coming. That's either brilliant or completely insane, Tommy said when I finished. Maybe both. Are you in? Hell yes. When do we start? The plan required patience and perfect timing. I needed to wait for the right opportunity, the right text message, the right lie. It came the following Tuesday evening. Lauren was in the bathroom getting ready for another work dinner when her phone buzzed on the dresser. I glanced at the screen and saw Eric's name. The message preview was enough. Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Lauren came out of the bathroom wearing the black cocktail dress from our first encounter with her lies. She looked beautiful and guilty and completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. Another client dinner? I asked casually. Yes, the Morrison account this time. Could run late? Morrison account. Got it. I kissed her cheek, tasting her expensive perfume. Have fun. She left at 7 p.m., probably thinking she was so clever, so careful. She had no idea that I'd already checked her location, identified the restaurant, and put the final pieces of my plan into motion. At 7:30, I sent a text to a number I'd found in Eric's social media contacts. Jenna Walsh, the unsuspecting girlfriend. Hi, Jenna. This is Simon Crawford. I think we need to talk about Eric and my wife, Lauren. Are you free for dinner tonight? I know exactly where they'll be. She called me within 5 minutes. Is this some kind of joke? Her voice was shaky, confused. I wish it was. But if you want proof that your boyfriend is cheating on you, meet me at Chez Laurent downtown in 30 minutes. Come alone. How do I know you're not some crazy person? Check Eric's location if you can. Then decide if you want to know the truth or keep living a lie. She hung up, but I knew she'd come. Nobody could resist the truth, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. Jenna Walsh was already waiting in the parking lot when I arrived at Chez Laurent. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 28 or 29, with short blonde hair and the kind of nervous energy that comes from having your world turned upside down. She approached my car cautiously. Simon? That's me. Thanks for coming. She looked toward the restaurant, then back at me. This is insane. Eric said he was working late on a project proposal. And my wife said she was having a business dinner with the Morrison account. Funny how their stories don't quite match up. Jenna's face was pale in the streetlight. You really think they're in there together? I know they are. The question is, do you want to see for yourself? She nodded, though she looked like she might throw up. What's the plan? We go in, get a table where we can see them, and then we let them know we're there. No scene, no drama, just the truth. And then what? Then we decide what to do with the rest of our lives. The maitre d' recognized me from my previous visit. Back again, sir? Table for two this evening? Yes, somewhere quiet, away from the business crowd. He led us to a booth with a perfect view of the back section where Lauren and Eric were sitting. They looked even more comfortable than last time, sharing an appetizer and laughing like old lovers. Eric's hand was stroking Lauren's arm. She was looking at him like he'd hung the moon. Jenna made a small, wounded sound when she saw them. Oh, God, it's real. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I know how much this hurts. How long have you known? Suspected for weeks. Confirmed it a few days ago. You? I had no idea. Tears were starting to form in her eyes. Eric's been so normal, loving even. We were talking about moving in together. Lauren's been the same way, acting like everything's fine while she plans her secret dates. We ordered drinks and sat in silence for a few minutes, watching our partners betray us in real time. Eric fed Lauren a bite of dessert. She giggled and wiped chocolate from his chin. They looked happy in a way that made my chest ache. What kind of business dinner involves feeding each other dessert? Jenna asked bitterly. The kind where the only business being conducted is monkey business. That got a small laugh out of her. You're taking this better than I am. I've had more time to process it, and honestly, I'm more angry than hurt at this point. I'm both. Eric and I have been together for 8 months. I thought he was the one. Lauren and I have been married for 15 years. I thought she was the one, too. My phone buzzed with a text message. Lauren, right on schedule. Running late at work dinner, sorry, don't wait up. I showed the message to Jenna. Your turn to check your phone. Sure enough, Jenna had received a similar message from Eric. Project running long, going to be a late night, love you. Love you, Jenna repeated sarcastically. He actually wrote love you while he's on a date with your wife. Lauren wrote sorry, like she's actually apologetic about lying to me. We looked at each other across the table, two people who'd been made fools of by the same pair of cheaters. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. Jenna, do you want to just sit here and watch them, or do you want to do something about it? What did you have in mind? I pulled out my phone and started typing a response to Lauren's text. Something they'll never forget. The message I sent was simple and devastating. No worries, honey. Guess what? I'm also at a work dinner tonight. With Eric's girlfriend, actually. We're sitting 2 booths behind you. Turn around. I hit send and watched Lauren's phone light up on their table. She glanced at it casually, probably expecting a simple okay or see you tomorrow. Instead, her face went white as she read my message. What did you send her? Jenna whispered. I showed her the text. Her eyes widened. Oh my God, you actually did it. Lauren was reading the message again, her hands shaking. She looked around the restaurant frantically, trying to locate us without being obvious about it. Eric noticed her distress and asked her something. She showed him the phone. Eric's reaction was even better than Lauren's. His confident smile disappeared instantly, replaced by pure panic. He started looking around the restaurant like a trapped animal. Now what? Jenna asked. Now we let them sweat for a minute, then we introduce ourselves. Lauren finally spotted us. Our eyes met across the restaurant, and I saw 15 years of marriage die in that moment. There was no explanation she could give, no lie that would cover this. She'd been caught red-handed, and she knew it. I raised my water glass in a mock toast. Lauren's face crumpled. Eric was still scanning the restaurant when Jenna stood up and walked over to their table. I followed her, my heart pounding with adrenaline and righteous anger. Hi, Eric, Jenna said sweetly. How's that project proposal coming along? Eric looked like he'd seen a ghost. Jenna, what are you doing here? Having dinner with Simon. You remember Simon, right? Lauren's husband? Lauren had started crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Simon, I can explain. Explain what? I interrupted. Explain why you've been lying to me for months. Explain why you're on a romantic date with your ex-boyfriend while I'm at home paying bills and believing in our marriage. The other diners were starting to notice the commotion. Eric tried to take control of the situation. Look, this is all a misunderstanding. Is it? Jenna cut him off. Because it looks like you're cheating on me with a married woman. Is that the misunderstanding you're referring to? Lauren reached for my hand. Simon, please, can we talk about this at home? I pulled my hand away. We're talking about it right here, right now, in front of everyone, just like you've been humiliating me in front of everyone for months. I never meant to hurt you. You never meant to get caught. There's a difference. Eric stood up, trying to salvage some dignity. Jenna, let me explain. Explain what? How you told me you loved me while you were planning secret dinners with her. How you've been living a double life for God knows how long. The restaurant had gone quiet around us. Even the waiters had stopped moving, watching our personal drama unfold like a soap opera. Lauren was sobbing now, completely broken down. I'm so sorry, Simon. I never wanted it to happen like this. How did you want it to happen, Lauren? Were you ever going to tell me, or were you just going to keep lying until I figured it out myself? She didn't have an answer for that. Eric tried one more time to take control. Why don't we all calm down and discuss this like adults? Adults? I laughed, and it came out harsh and bitter. Adults don't sneak around behind their partners' backs. Adults don't lie about work dinners while they are having affairs. Adults have enough respect for their relationships to end them before starting new ones. Jenna was crying now too, but her tears were angry. 8 months, Eric. 8 months of my life wasted on you. It's not wasted. Yes, it is, because everything between us has been a lie. I looked around the restaurant, at all the people watching our private pain become public spectacle. Part of me felt embarrassed, but a bigger part felt vindicated. Lauren had humiliated me in private for months. Now it was her turn. 15 years, I said quietly, looking directly at Lauren. 15 years of marriage, and this is how you end it. Not with honesty or respect or even a conversation, with lies and sneaking around and romantic dinners with your ex-boyfriend. Lauren tried to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. You want to be with Eric? Fine. Be with Eric. But don't you ever, ever pretend that this is my fault or that you never meant to hurt me. You made a choice, Lauren. Every lie, every secret dinner, every text message, those were all choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. I turned to Eric, who was still standing there looking like a deer in headlights. And you? You knew she was married. You knew I existed, but you pursued her anyway because you're selfish and you wanted what you wanted. Consequences be damned. Eric's face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know about the burner phone. I know about the text messages. I know about all the lies you two have been telling to cover up your affair. So don't stand there and act like I'm the unreasonable one. Jenna wiped her eyes and looked at Eric with disgust. We're done. Don't call me, don't text me, don't even look at me if you see me on the street. She turned and walked away, leaving Eric standing there with his mouth open. I looked at Lauren one last time. I'll be staying at Tommy's for a few days. When I come home, I want you gone. We'll figure out the divorce details later. Simon, wait. But I was already walking away, following Jenna toward the exit. Behind us, I could hear Lauren crying and Eric trying to comfort her. Let them comfort each other. They'd destroyed 2 relationships to be together. Now they could see if it was worth it. In the parking lot, Jenna and I stood by our cars, emotionally drained and unsure what to say. Thank you, she said finally, for telling me the truth, for letting me see it for myself. Thank you for believing me, and for backing me up in there. What happens now? Now we pick up the pieces and figure out how to move forward. She nodded and got in her car. I watched her drive away, then sat in my own car for a long moment, processing what had just happened. My marriage was over. 15 years, finished in a single conversation in a French restaurant. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The lies were over, the pretending was done, and the truth was finally out in the open. Lauren wanted Eric, she could have him. But she was going to discover that getting what you want and being happy with what you get are 2 very different things. And I was going to make sure she learned that lesson the hard way. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and dividing up 15 years of shared life. Lauren moved in with Eric almost immediately, which told me everything I needed to know about how long this affair had been going on. You don't move in with someone after a few secret dinners. You move in with someone you've been planning a future with. I stayed at Tommy's gym, sleeping on a cot in the back office and helping him with administrative work in exchange for room and board. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me space to think and plan my next moves. Because I wasn't done with Lauren and Eric, not by a long shot. The restaurant confrontation had been satisfying, but it was just the beginning. They'd humiliated me, lied to me, and destroyed my marriage. If they thought a few tears and a public scene was the end of it, they were badly mistaken. I started by doing research. Real research, the kind that would make a private investigator proud. Eric Brennan, it turned out, wasn't quite the successful executive he pretended to be. His BMW was leased, his downtown loft was rented, and his expensive lifestyle was funded largely by credit cards and a trust fund from his wealthy parents. He'd been fired from his previous job for performance issues and had only landed the position at TechFlow through family connections. More interesting was his employment history. Eric had a pattern of affairs with coworkers, something I discovered through LinkedIn connections and careful social media stalking. At his previous company, he'd been involved with at least 2 different women, both of whom left the company shortly after their relationships ended. Lauren, meanwhile, was discovering that office affairs come with professional consequences. Word of their relationship had spread quickly through TechFlow, especially after their public confrontation at the restaurant. Upper management wasn't pleased that 2 of their employees were causing workplace drama, particularly when one of them was married to someone outside the company. I learned all of this through a combination of sources, mutual acquaintances, social media, and a conversation with Jenna, who'd stayed in touch since our restaurant encounter. Eric's been calling me constantly, she told me over coffee one Saturday morning, claiming that what happened with Lauren was a mistake, that he wants to work things out. And you told him what? I told him to lose my number. But Simon, I think there's something you should know. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot of a text conversation. Eric sent this to me yesterday, trying to explain himself. Look at what he says about Lauren. The message made my blood boil. Lauren was just a rebound thing, a way to feel better about myself after our fight last month. She doesn't mean anything to me. You're the one I really love. He's already trying to cheat on the woman he cheated with, I said, amazed at Eric's audacity. Gets better. Look at this one. Another screenshot. Lauren's kind of desperate, honestly. She was throwing herself at me, talking about how unhappy she was in her marriage. I felt sorry for her. I stared at the messages, fury building in my chest. Eric was trying to have it both ways, keeping Lauren as his live-in girlfriend while attempting to win back Jenna by throwing Lauren under the bus. Jenna, can you do me a favor? What kind of favor? The kind that gives Eric and Lauren exactly what they deserve. My plan was elegant in its simplicity. If Eric wanted to play games and manipulate multiple women, I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of man he really was. And if Lauren thought she'd traded up by leaving me for him, she was about to get a very rude awakening. Step 1 was exposing Eric's financial situation. I'd learned through public records that he was behind on his rent, maxed out on credit cards, and facing potential legal action from his previous landlord. The expensive lifestyle Lauren was enjoying was built on borrowed money and family handouts. I compiled all of this information into a detailed report, complete with screenshots, financial records, and employment history. Then I sent it anonymously to TechFlow's HR department with a simple note. Thought you should know what kind of employee you've hired. Step 2 was more personal. I created a fake social media account and started following Eric's friends, family, and coworkers. Over the course of a week, I carefully documented his lies, his financial problems, and his attempts to cheat on Lauren with Jenna. Then I sent all of this information to Lauren. The message was simple. Thought you should know what your boyfriend really thinks of you. Check the screenshots. Also, you might want to ask him about his credit card debt and why his parents had to pay his rent last month. A concerned friend. The response was immediate and explosive. Within hours, Eric was posting frantic messages on social media, claiming he'd been hacked and that someone was spreading lies about him. Lauren's social media went completely dark. No posts, no activity, nothing. But the real fireworks started when TechFlow's HR department launched an investigation into Eric's background and discovered that he'd lied on his resume about his previous employment and qualifications. Tommy found this hilarious when I told him about it over beers that evening. So let me get this straight, he said, grinning. Eric's about to get fired for lying on his resume. He's broke. His girlfriend just found out he's trying to cheat on her, and his family's probably going to cut him off when they find out about the affair. That's the basic situation, yes. And Lauren's about to discover that she left a stable marriage for an unemployed, broke loser who doesn't even really want her? I couldn't have planned it better myself. You did plan it yourself, you magnificent bastard. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. Eric's ex-girlfriend from his previous job reached out to me through LinkedIn after seeing some of the social media drama. I heard about what Eric did to your marriage, she wrote. I thought you should know that he did the same thing to me. He was seeing me while living with another woman, telling me she was just a roommate and that he was going to break up with her. It took me months to figure out he was lying. She included screenshots of text messages that showed Eric's pattern of manipulation and deception. The messages were almost identical to what he'd been sending to Jenna. The same lies, the same excuses, the same promises he had no intention of keeping. I forwarded all of this to Lauren with another anonymous message. Eric's ex-girlfriend wanted you to know what you're really dealing with. This is his pattern. You're not special. You're just the latest victim. The confrontation I'd been waiting for happened on a Thursday evening. I was at Tommy's gym, working out my frustrations on the heavy bag, when Lauren showed up. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she had the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't been sleeping. The confident, ambitious woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone who looked broken and desperate. We need to talk, she said. I stopped hitting the bag and turned to face her. I think we said everything we needed to say at the restaurant. Simon, please. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. You made a choice, Lauren. Multiple choices. Over several months. Don't minimize it by calling it a mistake. She started crying, which might have affected me a few weeks earlier. Now it just made me angry. Eric isn't who I thought he was, she said between sobs. He's been lying to me, using me. He's broke, Simon. He can't even pay his rent without help from his parents. And you're just figuring this out now? I was so caught up in the excitement, the attention. He made me feel special, important, like I was worth pursuing. You were worth pursuing. I pursued you for 15 years. I just didn't make a big show of it because I thought we were past the point where you needed constant validation. Lauren wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our marriage. But maybe we could try counseling, try to work things out? I stared at her, amazed at her audacity. You want to work things out? After months of lying, cheating, and humiliating me? After moving in with your boyfriend and posting pictures of your new life all over social media? I was confused. You were selfish, and you still are, if you think you can just come back here and pick up where we left off because your affair didn't work out the way you planned. So that's it? 15 years of marriage, and you're just going to throw it all away? I laughed, and it came out bitter and harsh. I'm not throwing anything away, Lauren. You already threw it away. I'm just refusing to dig through the garbage to try to put it back together. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. I never thought you could be so cold. I never thought you could be so dishonest. I guess we both learned something new about each other. Lauren left without another word, and I went back to hitting the heavy bag. Each punch felt like closure, like putting the final period on a chapter of my life that had lasted far too long. The bag swung and came back at me like it wanted an answer, and all I could give it was another clean strike. My shoulders burned. My knuckles stung through the wraps. It felt good to hurt, in a way that was honest, in a way that didn't come with confusion or excuses. Tommy didn't say much. He never did when he knew words would only make things messy. He just leaned on the doorway with his arms crossed and watched me work it out the only way I could. When I finally stopped, breathing hard, sweat running down my spine, he tossed me a towel and nodded toward the water cooler. I drank like I'd been walking through a desert. "You good?" he asked. I almost laughed because the question was too small for what I felt. But I understood what he meant. Was I going to do something stupid? Was I going to start chasing ghosts again? "I'm here," I said. "That's good enough." He nodded like he understood, and then he walked away, giving me the privacy of his silence. On my drive home, the city looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. Traffic lights, storefronts, people carrying groceries, couples walking dogs, normal life, moving forward without permission from my pain. For weeks, it had felt like the world was leaning on me, pressing me down until I couldn't breathe. That night, it felt like the pressure had shifted, like my lungs had room again. I didn't check Lauren's location, I didn't open old messages, I didn't scroll through pictures that would only reopen the wound. I made dinner, ate at the kitchen counter, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't imagine her walking in with a story I was expected to believe. 2 days later, my lawyer called and told me the first round of paperwork was ready. Hearing the words out loud should have made me sick. Instead, it made me calm, not happy, not excited, calm. The kind of calm you feel when the storm finally moves far enough away that you can see the horizon. That same week, TechFlow's HR emailed me about an exit interview. Apparently, my name had been dragged into enough hallway conversations that they wanted a clean record, whatever that meant. I showed up, answered what I had to answer, and left without offering any extra details. I wasn't there to heal their company culture. I was there to stop being part of their mess. 2 weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Eric had been fired from TechFlow and that he and Lauren had broken up after a massive fight about money and his attempts to reconnect with Jenna. Lauren had moved back in with her sister and was looking for a new job since the workplace drama had made her position at TechFlow untenable. Eric, meanwhile, had moved back in with his parents and was facing potential legal action from several creditors. They'd both gotten exactly what they deserved: each other, and then the inevitable consequences of their choices. The strangest part wasn't the news itself. It was how fast the story collapsed once nobody was covering for it. When people are lying, they spend so much energy building a fake world that looks stable from the outside. But it's all held together by string. All it takes is one sharp tug, and everything falls apart. I ran into a guy from TechFlow at a gas station one night. He saw me, hesitated like he didn't know if he was allowed to talk to me, then walked over anyway. He didn't give me gossip. He gave me something else. He said quietly that people had started telling the truth in small pieces. Not because they suddenly became brave, but because they were tired of being part of a lie that didn't even benefit them. He said everyone knew Eric had been borrowing money and spinning stories. He said Lauren had been acting like she owned the place, like consequences were something that happened to other people. He shook his head and said it was weird watching karma work on a schedule. I didn't say much. I paid for my gas and left. In the past, I would have replayed his words like a victory speech. Now it just sounded like background noise. I felt no satisfaction in their misery, but I felt no sympathy either. They'd made their bed through lies, betrayal, and selfishness. Now they could lie in it. Their pain didn't heal me. Their downfall didn't restore what I lost. It simply confirmed something I had finally accepted. People who build their lives on shortcuts eventually hit a wall. As for me, I was finally free to build a new life, one based on honesty and self-respect rather than trying to save a marriage that had been dead for months. The first step was small and embarrassingly basic. I stopped explaining myself. For a long time, I'd been defending my reality to people who wanted a softer story, people who wanted to believe Lauren was just confused, or that Eric was going through something, or that I had pushed her away, with work and stress and not enough date nights. Those were the narratives that let everyone stay comfortable. Those were the narratives that made betrayal feel like a misunderstanding instead of a choice. I didn't need comfort anymore. I needed truth. So when people asked what happened, I gave them a short answer. She cheated. I filed. I'm moving on. If they pushed for details, I shrugged. The details were not a movie. They were not entertainment. They were a lesson, and the lesson was finished. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Lauren got half of our modest assets. which wasn't much after legal fees and the debt she'd run up during her affair. I kept the house and my business, and most importantly, I kept my dignity. When the judge said it was final, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, like I'd been carrying a heavy box for miles and someone finally said I could set it down. I walked out of the courthouse and sat in my car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then I started the engine and drove straight to the gym. Tommy was in the office, scribbling on a schedule. He looked up at me and knew right away. He didn't ask questions. He just stood, opened his arms, and gave me a quick, solid hug like a brother. "You want it?" he asked, nodding toward the clipboard. "What?" "The permanent spot. Helping run the place. I'm serious." Tommy offered me a permanent position helping run the gym, which I accepted. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was honest work with honest people. And after everything I'd been through, honesty was the only thing that mattered. At first, it felt strange being responsible for other people's routines. I wasn't just showing up to punch and sweat and disappear. I was opening the doors, checking the equipment, making sure the newbies didn't hurt themselves trying to impress someone. I was greeting the regulars, learning names, remembering little things like who hated burpees and who needed a gentler push after a rough week. There was a quiet dignity in it. No pretending, no smiling while hiding a double life, just people trying to be better than they were yesterday. On the 1-year anniversary of the restaurant confrontation, Jenna called me. "I wanted to thank you again," she said, "for showing me the truth about Eric. It saved me from wasting more time on someone who would never have been faithful." "How are you doing?" "Great, actually. I met someone new, someone honest. We're taking things slow, but it feels real in a way that Eric never did." "I'm happy for you." "What about you? Any romantic prospects?" I looked around Tommy's gym, at the honest sweat and genuine effort of people trying to better themselves, and smiled. "I'm focusing on myself right now, learning to be happy alone before I try to be happy with someone else." "That sounds healthy." It is. For the first time in years, it really is. After we hung up, I went back to my workout, thinking about the strange journey that had brought me to this point. Lauren's betrayal had destroyed my marriage, but it had also freed me from a relationship that had become built on lies and false expectations. Eric's manipulation had cost him everything: his job, his girlfriend, his reputation, and ultimately his relationship with Lauren. He'd played games with people's hearts and discovered that eventually the house always wins. And me? I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting free. The truth had set me free, and I was never going back to living a lie.